30th place is... Manda. Manda's one of my personal guilty pleasure kaijus. He was one of the first kaijus I ever saw because Destroy All Monsters was one of the first Godzilla movies I ever saw, and he had a pretty big scene when it comes to the big city destruction scene, and I just really liked the design, even though the one that was in Destroy All Monsters isn't technically his best design. I mean, he is more of a serpent than a sort of a Chinese dragon than goes in his previous and later designs. But he is a very unique kaiju in the Godzilla universe because he's one of the few puppet kaijus that can't fly. And I definitely think with CGI, and especially Singular Point, there's a lot more they can do with Manda and not restrict him to what they can do with a puppet. That's always been Manda's Achilles heel, is they can't really do much with him because he was a puppet. He didn't really have the weight to destroy things, so he was kind of on the sidelines. But like I said, with CGI and Singular Point, there's definitely more they can do with him. I definitely see him having a more prominent role later on and being more threatening and more intimidating. It would be interesting to see him fight Godzilla, or actually it would be a very interesting opponent for King Kong, I think. I would definitely like to see Manda fight King Kong. And that's Manda. He is the last kaiju in the 30s as we move into the 20s. Starting off with... in 29th place is... Minilla. Oh, I bet you were wondering when he was coming. Well, very popular in Japan. When it came to the survey, Minilla was not very popular at all. Seen as many as the Scrappy-Doo of Godzilla, Minilla has his good points. Minilla definitely has his qualities. I mean, he's definitely child-friendly, and he's not as annoying as he's made out to be. He's just a fun kaiju for the little kids to enjoy. He's a comic relief. While he shouldn't be the focus of any upcoming Godzilla movies, he would just be a fun side character. He was probably utilised best in Final Wars in that he was in the first half of it and they just disappeared until the end. When things started getting more serious, you just didn't see Minilla just show up while that was the big climactic battle between Godzilla and Ghidorah. He's just a fun side dish. You just check up on him every now and then and you get back to the real action. Well, definitely one of the most divisive kaijus in the Godzilla franchise. Some people either love him or hate him. He's definitely the Scrappy-Doo of the Godzilla franchise. But he has his fans. That's why he's not bottom on this list. He actually has people who really do like him, and aren't just people trolling. But there we have Minilla. We definitely get a better Son of Godzilla later on. And in 28th place is... the male MUTO, the smaller winged variant of the MUTO, and for quite a lot of people might be the first villain kaiju that a lot of people saw. The MUTO is a decent design. The male MUTO is a decent design. He is a little bit generic, but when it comes to the first villain kaiju of the Monsterverse, it's good that they went for a new kaiju instead of something from the classic series. It's a good way to test the water, to just see if Godzilla can stand out on his own, and while Godzilla in the Godzilla 2014 movie is very much in the sidelines, the male MUTO is really the main kaiju of the story in a way. He's the kaiju that gets the most screen time, and has the most focus. And I also like how within nature, like most insect-like creatures, the male is the smaller version. But it also meant that we got a bit of variety in the climactic fight instead of Godzilla fighting two identical shaped kaiju. And that's the male MUTO. Luckily the female MUTO didn't eat him. Number 27. MUTO female. How fitting that the MUTO female and the MUTO male are together in the list. Like they're meant to be together always and forever. Well, actually I prefer the MUTO male, but MUTO female is also pretty good design. I liked how when this first trailer started to come out for it, everyone thought it was Gigan. Yeah, that's a bit of a big difference. MUTO female, well, she doesn't have as much screen time as the MUTO male because she appears around about 2/3 way in the movie. She definitely has a bit of a character, like she's clearly a mother wanting to lay her nest. I don't really know how to best put that. And when all her babies get blown up, even though she is technically the bad guy and if they do hatch they will kill us all, you do actually feel sorry for her. As it is clear on this list, both of these two have to be together. And this wasn't planned or anything, this just happened. It ended up scoring around about the same amount of points as each other, so they just ended up being together. How fitting and sort of romantic in a way. Romantic for a giant kaiju that's wanting to kill us all with radiation, babies and stuff like that. But yes, the MUTO female and the MUTO male are going to be together forever for always. I ship that. Number 26. Megaguirus. Another female queen kaiju. Megaguirus is technically a queen of a Meganeulon swarm. She is the big queen, the big final version of a Meganeulon. Yeah, basically she spends the entire movie in underwater and then she hatches to fight Godzilla in the final 5 minutes. Well, I am over exaggerating a bit, it's more like the final 10 minutes. She is in one of the best Godzilla fights of all time just because of how fun it is. It's just to say that the rest of the movie that she's in is not very good. She's also an interesting character to play as in the Pipeworks trilogy games, as she's one of the fastest characters in the game, but she's also very difficult to control because she is so fast, and a lot of her moves they're not really damaging. She is a very awesome design, I think. Like, you can definitely see this as like being a queen version of a swarm of insects. Like, in the middle of a hive there would be this. And it brings up the interesting theory that the Meganeulon were in the original Rodan movie, so does that mean that there's a Megaguirus cocoon somewhere lying around in the Showa universe? Megaguirus is definitely one of those kaijus I think should come back in some form or another. I think she would definitely be a more fitting villain for the likes of Mothra than she would be for Godzilla. That's definitely a fight I would like to see in a movie, is Mothra versus Megaguirus. I would like to see how that would play out. Since they're both flying kaijus, but both very different kinds of flying kaiju. Whereas Mothra relies on energy attacks and beams, Megaguirus is more fast and up close and sort of like a mosquito in a way, where it will dart in and dart out very, very quickly. But yes, Megaguirus, the queen of the Meganeulons, and only 26, so we're starting to get into the good stuff now. Number 25. Titanosaurus, the final kaiju of the Showa era. After what preceded Titanosaurus with the likes of Megalon, Gigan and Mechagodzilla, Titanosaurus is definitely a back-to-basics sort of kaiju. He doesn't really have any special abilities, he's just more a red, aquatic-looking version of Godzilla. He's also a very sympathetic kaiju because he's not meant to be an evil kaiju, he's supposed to be docile and sort of friendly in a way. He doesn't want to interact with humanity, he just wants to be left alone. But then evil scientists came and put something in his brain and mind controlled him and made him into an evil kaiju monster killer. Even though technically it is said that Titanosaurus is not a kaiju, he is just a dinosaur. He doesn't necessarily have any special abilities. He can lift up Godzilla by his mouth, which is, well, it's an interesting visual, and he has his wind gust attack, which plenty of kaijus have. So he doesn't really stand out, and I think that's what makes him kind of popular in a way, is that he is not really that special of a kaiju. He's just an average kaiju that just wants to be left alone. He's sympathetic and you feel sorry for him. And maybe that's why he's number 25. Number 24. Gorosaurus. Gorosaurus is another one of those kaijus that doesn't really stand out by himself. He is basically an overgrown giant T-Rex with a very nasty kangaroo kick. But it's interesting how he was born as a sort of tribute to the original King Kong movie, since his first appearance was in King Kong Escapes, where he was in the first half of the movie and just basically got killed by King Kong. And then that was really supposed to be it for him, but it was thanks to Destroy All Monsters that Gorosaurus got a bit of a more fan-favourite following. He was definitely one of my first favourite kaijus, since Destroy All Monsters was one of the first kaiju movies I ever saw. Him replacing Baragon definitely made it so that he had more of a limelight. If his only appearance was in King Kong Escapes, I definitely don't think he would be as popular as he is. While Godzilla is king of the monsters, you could argue that Gorosaurus is king of the dinosaurs. And you could argue he is the one that delivered the crippling blow to King Ghidorah in Destroy All Monsters that started King Ghidorah's defeat. That kangaroo kick is very, very useful. With all the obscure kaijus they're bringing back in Singular Point, it would be nice to see Gorosaurus appear in some capacity and also in this movie. Maybe as just another giant dinosaur. Who knows, we'll see. But yes, Gorosaurus, number 24 on the list, and on to the next number. Number 23. Hedorah. The smog monster coming in at number 23. Hedorah is definitely a love or hate kaiju, I find. There are some people in the kaiju community who absolutely adore Hedorah and think he's one of the most powerful and underrated kaijus in the entire franchise. And then there are others who think Hedorah is one of the most unusual, weakest and just bad kaijus in the franchise. And you can see how he comes basically in the middle of the entire list. It shows his love or hate affiliation with the entire fandom. Godzilla vs. Hedorah is definitely the most weirdest Godzilla movie ever made. It is an experience in its own right, and Hedorah definitely adds to that just weirdness. Because they're going for a very kid-friendly Save the Earth message in this movie, but Hedorah himself is quite scary. He's one of the few kaijus with an on-screen kill count, and it's a very gruesome kind of killing because he just makes people's bodies dissolve into nothing but skeletons. Like, that's just brutal. He's a very unique kaiju. He's basically a giant pile of slime and pollution. I mean, he's basically the kaiju version of the giant blob. He's definitely one of those kaijus that fans have been wanting to see back in some form. While his last appearance was in Final Wars, it was the shortest cameo of them all, really. He is definitely an interesting kaiju. I would like to see him also come back. Maybe that will make people who don't like him see why he's so loved by other members of the fandom. We'll see. Number 22. King Caesar, a guardian monster of Japan. Okay, he didn't really do that much of a good job of it, but anyway, King Caesar is a guardian monster who was introduced in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla and appeared again in Godzilla Final Wars. He's a fun kaiju. Well, he doesn't have that many great abilities. Well, he does have Reflect, which makes him a psychic type Pokemon. King Caesar is one of those kaijus that seems to have gotten more love outside of the movies than he did in the movies, because in the movies he's, well, in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, he spent the entire movie being built up and then he kind of gets his ass kicked immediately. It's a bit of a joke. And in Godzilla Final Wars, they gave him tits. I'm just joking, they're supposed to be make him look like one of those Chinese dragons, but it does look like he has boobs. But then when it comes to the other medias, like in the games, Godzilla Unleashed, he's actually one of the best kaijus to play as, but his best appearance in my opinion would be in Godzilla Rulers of Earth, where he beat Megalon and Batra and was also the deciding factor in the defeat of the Trilopods, being one of the few kaijus left that released all the other kaijus that were trapped by them, and led the charge to help Godzilla save the day. Yeah, if you just look at King Caesar from his movie appearances, he's not that great, but in the comics and the other medias, he is actually one of the best ones there is. Definitely one of the kaijus that in recent years has been growing a lot in popularity. Let's hope this continues. Number 21. Varan. This was one of the biggest surprises for me on this list because, well, Varan doesn't really done much. From his movie appearances, he has one solo movie which was supposed to be a TV movie, and then the whole behind the scenes mess could be a video and it's alright, and it was just quickly rushed into being a full cinematic release and it really suffered from it. And then he has one small cameo in Destroy All Monsters and that's it. He's been one of those kaiju that's supposed to be in many Godzilla movies but never made it. I mean, he was going to be the final kaiju in the Heisei era and be the kaiju that was too powerful for Godzilla. He was meant to have many other movie roles that just never came about. But then, like King Caesar, I think it's the expanded media is where Varan's popularity lies. He's in Godzilla Unleashed, where he's an interesting character to play with, to say the least. But he also appeared in Godzilla Monster of Monsters, he was in the trading card game, the movie studio tour. He's been in plenty of games, and he's been in plenty of books. He also had a bit of a starring role in the comics as well. It's just interesting how Varan has been one of those kaijus that, well, he's not really one that you would think would be very popular since he has one movie and one cameo appearance in the movies, but outside the movies he's had plenty of appearances and I think that's probably where his popularity grew from. He's definitely a kaiju that is more interesting behind the scenes and outside of the main movie universe than he is inside. He's definitely the biggest surprise on this list. I honestly expected him to be in the 30s, but no, he's in the 20s, the high 20s. It is a shock. And with that, we have finished the 20s. Tune in next time when we do the top 20 from 20 to 11. Tell me what you would have put in the comments below, and of course, tell me what you think of the list. And I have a Patreon, all that good stuff. And I am Alex 100, and I will see you guys next time when we do 20 to 11.